besties, it's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing my annual video where I read booktubers' worst books of the previous year. I say it's annual as if I've been doing it so many times, but I only did it last year and this is the second time. But just so you know, it is annual. It's gonna be a thing I'm doing every single year. The first portion of this video will be me building my TBR. I filmed clips over a couple of different days as I watched batches of people's worst videos. So I just wanted to share my criteria for you on how I'm picking these books. So the first book that we're looking for is the most popular book. So this is going to be the book that shows up on the most amount of worst lists. And so then the next two books are going to come from two booktubers that have the most of my favorite books on their worst list. So I'm calling these my booktube opposites. My thinking is that if you have a bunch of my favorite books on your worst list, then chances are we probably have opposite book taste and I'll probably like something on your worst list. And then the final and fourth book that I'll be reading for this video is going to be what I'm calling dealer's choice. Basically, I'm considering myself the dealer and I'm going to be choosing what I want to read. So it's just a way of having a fun name for me picking something that I just want to read. Hello besties, welcome to day one of me watching booktubers' worst books of 2023 videos. I feel like that is a very long title, but we're gonna have to just go with it. These are the 12 videos that I watched today and I'm gonna go ahead and share the results with you. We have 4 booktubers who are contenders for being my booktube opposite. They all had 2 of my favorite 4 or 5-star books on their lists. We have Meg, Joe, Reagan, and Tori. Meg, Reagan, and Tori all had Fourth Wing on their list. I am gonna be upfront, I did give Fourth Wing 5 stars. I am no longer a stan because I didn't like Iron Flame and I DNF'd it and I will not be touching that series ever again. If I'm gonna be honest about this process, I do have to admit that I liked Fourth Wing. I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. It was a great time. Meg also had A Book of Night on her list, which was one of my favorite books that I read last year. I literally gave that 5 stars. Joe had House of Earth and Blood and Beneath the Sugar Sky. And Reagan also had My Best Friend's Exorcism, which I do think is my favorite Grady Hendrix that I've read. And Tori had Senlin Ascends. And then finally, there were 2 books that were tied for being the most popular worst books. That does feel like an oxymoron when I say it, most popular worst books. The first of these was The Christmas Murder Game. Both Michaela and Mara did not like this. They hated it. And then we also had A Twisted Love Story. Both Gabby and Deja did not like this. I guess the magic number to beat today is 2. I'm very curious to see what other booktube opposites I find, as well as what other books start cropping up on people's lists for being the worst book. All right, we are on day 2 of watching these videos. Today, I watched these 10. Also, as a reminder, here are the leaderboards for both the worst book that's showing up on the most amount of lists, as well as my booktube opposites. For both of these categories, the number to beat is 2. So now, having watched these 10 new videos, I can say that The Writing Retreat has taken the lead as the #1 book that people have said they don't like. There were 3 people who said it today. We had Liv, Angie, and Rainey. Unfortunately, we did not have any more booktube opposites, so we will have to see what day 3 brings because I have about 10 more videos that I'm going to watch. Okay, besties, we are now on day 3 of watching these videos. I've collected a few, and these are the 10 that I watched. 3 more people went ahead and said that they hated The Writing Retreat. We can go ahead and add Ty, Kayla, and Riley. This, of course, means that I will be adding it to my TBR. I am so intrigued to see what I think of this book because it showed up on just as many people's best lists as it did worst lists. Also, we finally have some winners for the booktube opposites. I don't know if this is a prize that you really want to win because it means that we have opposite book taste, but I genuinely love both of these people, so it's not a slight to them. I just want to include them in the video. Technically, you did have a bunch of my favorite books on your worst list. So the first person was Katie Colson with 3 of my favorite books: Project Hail Mary, Roanoke Girls, and Fourth Wing. Again, Miss Fourth Wing made an appearance. I'm sorry that I gave it 5 stars. So looking at Katie's list, I think I want to read Hellbent because I have been looking for an excuse to read it. It is the sequel to Ninth House, which was one of my favorite books that I read last year, and I just needed a reason to read it in a video. And then finally, the actual queen of being my booktube opposite is Lexi. Not only is Lexi a fabulous booktuber, she's also one of my patrons, so I thought it was so funny that she ended up on this list because I love Lexi. She's so sassy, she's so funny. She had 6 of my favorite books on her list: Clockwork Angel, Born Darkly, Daisy Jones, Bromance Book Club, Nevermore, and Fourth Wing. Off of Lexi's list, I think I am contractually obligated by booktube rules to read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue because it's kind of crazy that I have not read this. I don't really know how I've gone this far without reading it. I think what happens to me sometimes is that when books get too hyped up, it puts me off from reading them because I get nervous that I'm not going to like them. So I'll have to go ahead and see what I think. And then finally, for Dealer's Choice, which is basically just me picking whatever book that I want to read, I would like to read The Wishing Game. This showed up for 2 booktubers, both Kayla and Reagan. And then if you're interested, I actually will be doing an extended version of this on my Patreon where I read 2 more books. I'll be be reading What Moves the Dead and How to Sell a Haunted House. How to Sell a Haunted House showed up on like 4 or 5 people's lists, so I definitely still wanted to read it. So I was like, why not put it on Patreon? So if you're interested, you can join my Patreon and check that out. Before we get into the vlog, I do want to say thank you to Pair Eyewear for sponsoring this video. Pair Eyewear offers affordable and customizable prescription glasses. What's fun about them is that you get to pick a base frame, and then to add pizzazz, you choose a top frame that can be switched out depending on your mood. I also appreciate that there is a virtual try-on feature where you can actually see what the glasses will look like on your face. That is always my go-to when I'm online shopping for glasses. All the base frames start at $60, which is really affordable in comparison to other brands. Also, switching between frames is literally so easy. You literally just pop them on like this and you have new glasses. Isn't that so cute? This base frame that I chose is called the Soto. I really liked it because I am a huge fan of round glasses on myself. I just think it's cute, it's giving. I also like that if I'm not in the mood to wear the top frames, I can just wear them alone. I selected 3 top frames from their new Love Book collection, The Romantic Reads. The little books and flowers on this frame are so cute. I'm literally loving that as a reader. The Moonlit Evening. I think this top frame might be my favorite because of the nighttime cottagecore vibes. And then finally, I also got the Peafowl Feathers, which is giving Jane Austen Pride and Prejudice vibes, which I love. My favorite thing about these glasses, besides the fact that I'm able to change up the style depending on my vibe for the day, is that they do offer blue light protection. Outside of booktube, I work as a product designer, so I stare at a computer all day. And then when I log off for the day, I'm either staring at my computer even more while I edit YouTube videos, or I love playing games on my phone while I listen to audiobooks. So it's nice to know that not only are my glasses cute, but they also protect my eyes. If you are on the market for new glasses, be sure to click the link in the description below because it will give you 15% off of your first pair.
For me, the bottom line was this was trying to be and do too many things.
My problem with this book was that it was messy.
Everything else to me was just stupid. It was boring, and I wanted more from this.
I disliked it with a passion.
It's not good, well written. It's very sloppy. It makes no sense.
Okay, besties, I am 64% of the way through the writing retreat and I am very shocked right now. I kind of like it. I've been having a really good time reading it. So this book is following this girl named Alex, and she had a falling out with her best friend Ren about a year ago, and they both are aspiring writers and they really idolize this very famous author named Rosa Vallow. And every year Rosa has a writing retreat at her like gothic mansion. Both Ren and Alex get accepted to this program, so they have to go despite having been estranged for the last year. And Alex has a lot of feelings about this. This is told in first person, so we are following Alex's point of view as she is thinking about Ren. And I can just tell that Miss Alex, she might not be the most reliable narrator. I don't know. She's kind of giving loser, to be honest. She is very insecure and she's always worrying about what everyone is thinking of her. And once she gets to the retreat, she's always worried that people like Ren more than they like her. And there's just a lot of feelings coming up. I think what I like about this so far is the exploration of a homoerotic female friendship. It's not perfect. Like the pacing is a little bit all over the place. It took until the 50% mark for the mystery to actually happen. Like if you read the back of the book, it says that one of the writers at the retreat goes missing, and the girl that went missing just did. My one other complaint is that there is this one glaring plot hole that keeps annoying me because the math ain't mathing. Our main character says that her grandparents were in the Holocaust and that her mother was 2 years old when they moved to the US, but that would make her really old. Like I don't know the exact math here. It seems like it takes place in modern day because they're talking about cell phones and stuff. It's just not really making sense to me. Like I am no mathematician, I can only do girl math, but somehow this is not adding up. But other than those things, I am having a great time. Like I really enjoy Rosa as this like enigmatic writer that everyone looks up to. It's reminding me a lot of Cordova from Night Film. I haven't read that book in many years, so I don't even know if I would still stand by that, but that used to be one of my favorite books. And I feel like having this artistic person that everyone looks up to that's kind of mysterious is just an interesting plot point. I genuinely don't even know where the story is going. Like I cannot tell what the mystery really is going to turn out to be, which I am glad about because I'm very good at guessing plots. I do have some theories, obviously I'm not going to share them. I just started the book yesterday, so to be already like 70% of the way into it is honestly pretty good. Like I feel like I'm having a good time. Okay, besties, I did finish the writing retreat and I have to say, perhaps you girlies were correct. Maybe this book was not good. I know that I was singing its praises. It had me in the first half. It really devolves from there. Like the minute that that one character goes missing, the plot just kind of falls apart. It gets very messy, very sloppy, and just kind of cheesy. And so unfortunately, it's one of those books that's going to like age like sour milk, where when you first read it, you're like, okay, okay, it wasn't that bad. And then the more that you go away from it, the more you're like, no, it was actually pretty bad. Every time I think of it very negatively. So I feel like it's just been getting worse and worse in my mind. I will say, I would give Julia Bartz a second chance. I feel like there's an opportunity for her to work on her craft. I could see her taking some of the parts of her writing that were good and just maybe like plotting her next thriller a little bit better. I'm just really surprised by how many booktubers enjoyed this because it just doesn't feel very well executed for what she wanted to do. I was in it for the toxic friendship. I feel like if we had explored that more, I would have continued to really like it because that was what I was enjoying about the first half. But the second half is when the mystery really happens and it just, I don't know, it wasn't giving. I just thought it was kind of stupid. And I'm so sorry to say that. Except for I'm not really sorry, actually.
Because nothing happens. Nothing happens. We spend the entire book trying to solve the cliffhanger of the first book.
Hellbent was literally the opposite of everything I've ever wanted.
I think we all know that I just did not enjoy this. I felt like it was very unserious.
It just does weird things, but not in a fun way.
Oh my god, besties, I literally look like shit right now. And I don't have my camera with me. I'm in bed. The light has been off. It is 4 a.m. And I made the grave mistake of starting Hellbent late at night. Like I had listened to a little bit earlier today, and then around like 1:45 a.m. I was like, I'm just gonna listen to like 10 minutes before I go to sleep. And here I am hours later, and I should not have done this. I just need you guys to know my raw reaction to this, which is why I'm filming this on my phone. But I am loving this book. I cannot even believe that people put this on their worst list. Like, what? So let's back up and just talk about what Ninth House is about in general, because this is a sequel, so I can't talk a ton about what's happening in this book. But basically, we follow our main girl, Alex Stern, and she used to be a drug addict because she can see ghosts, and they have quite literally haunted her whole life. And so the only way to keep them at bay was to do drugs. And she ends up in this situation where she like ODs, and these people from Yale show up in her hospital room, and they're like, hey girlie, what if you came to Yale because you can see ghosts? We have all these like secret societies that do all this different magic stuff, and we have this other society called Leafy Society that kind of keeps them in order and also attends all of their ceremonies to make sure like ghosts don't affect them. So could you come join and be this person that like polices all these other like magic societies? So she goes to Yale, and that's what she's doing in the first book. And then this girl ends up getting murdered on campus, and she's like, that's suspicious, that's weird. And then her mentor Darlington goes missing. He's another guy that's in Leafy Society. So in this book, we're kind of trying to get to the bottom of like what happened to Darlington, because he's kind of been like MIA ever since the first book. It's so fucking good. This is better than the first book. Like if you liked Ninth House and you haven't read Hellbent yet, this is better. I genuinely cannot even believe that someone was reading this sequel and was like, ew, I don't like this. Like every complaint that I've heard someone make about it, I'm like, what do you mean? Like I heard someone say like nothing happens in it and the whole thing is about trying to get Darlington. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I've also heard people complain about some of the ships in it, and I do not understand. The one thing that I've heard people say many times, even people who like Ninth House and Hellbent, they always say that they ship Pamela Dawes and Alex Stern, and I don't get that. Listen, I am here for a queer relationship. I am here for a sapphic moment. I don't believe personally that Dawes and Alex have any chemistry. Like every time they're on page together, I'm like, yeah, it feels like platonic, almost like sisterly. Like I never feel like they should kiss. And listen, I would want them to kiss if I felt like that was true. You know who I ship Dawes with? Alex's friend, Mercy. The one critique that I've had for this series, besides that each book is really hard to get into at first, like the first book, it took me like half of the book to get into it. And then this one, it also took me a couple of chapters. Like I had a moment where I was scared that I wasn't gonna like this. I was like, oh my God, am I gonna like agree with everybody who put this on their worst list? You just have to wait a while to get into these books. But anyway, my other complaint is that there's a couple of like side characters that I feel like are kind of useless. Alex lives with these two girls, Lauren and Mercy, and they did have some plot lines in the first book, but Lauren, I don't really know what purpose she serves, but Miss Mercy is actually starting to get a little bit more important in this book, and I kind of ship her and Dawes. They had a moment in the chapter that I was just reading, and I was like, okay, girls, I love that for you. But yeah, I do not personally ship Alex with Dawes. I do ship her with Darlington. I am having a great time with this book. I even am really enjoying all the B plots because there's a couple of other things happening in the background that I think are so good. Like I just had to tell you my raw emotion right now, and I literally look horrible, horrendous. Like I don't even know why this eye looks swollen or like what's going on in my face here. I genuinely should go to sleep now, but I think, don't tell my employer, I think I might take a sick day tomorrow, aka today. Am I going to stay up all night reading? I think I might. I think I might. I'm also mad at myself for giving you this update right now, not only because I'm filming on my phone, but also because I literally own a copy of Hellbent that is so cool. It is a Waterstone special edition that I got when I was in the UK. I feel like for me, I know that a book is going to be 5 stars when I can't stop reading. I guess that there's been times that I've read a book all night and I haven't loved it. I'm thinking of some horror books that I've done that with, but I am giving you a 5-star prediction. Okay, besties, I did end up staying up till like literally 8 a.m. reading Hellbent. Here is my beautiful copy that I was telling you guys about. It is gorgeous. We love it. I got it when I was in the UK. I'm obsessed. Why does Waterstones have the best editions of all books? Like, I don't understand. Like, it's so cute. Barnes & Noble, you better take notes. Also, now having read the book, the bunny really means something. It kind of makes me want to cry. Do I regret staying up all night and not sleeping to read this? In a way, yes. In another way, no, because it was just such an iconic reading experience. I loved this. I am giving this 5 stars. I don't understand why anyone on this planet would ever say that nothing happened in this. Everything happened in this, and I'm so obsessed, and I definitely can see where the 3rd book is going, and I'm so excited. I'm just sad that the 3rd book probably won't come out for a while. Like, I'm assuming it won't come out for like a couple of years, but I loved this so much. Literally, while I was reading, I had to Google, are they making this into a television show? Because it is so episodic. It feels like a TV show. I could see this being on like Sci-Fi or HBO or Netflix or something like that. I think it would just be so good on television. Ugh, I love Alex. I love Darlington. I don't love Dawes. Honestly, I still think she kind of feels like a wet blanket, but she's growing on me. And the ending of this, I was gagged. I was gagged. I'm really grateful to everyone who said they hated this so that I could find an excuse to read this. To be honest, I would have read this regardless of this video, but I'm just glad that I could fit it into a concept that I was already doing. I'm so happy that I read it. I loved it.
This book spans 300 years, and a whole lot of nothing happened in 300 years. This is a book that's purely vibes. There is no plot to this book, and I'm the type of reader where I need a plot or else I will not be entertained.
Besties, I have amazing news. I have started The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and I have been loving it. Also, Billy just joined us. I feel like whenever I'm filming, you can always see like the top of her head or like her tail or something. Anyhow, I started this, and I am liking it. I'm about 30% of the way through. I also asked my Patreon if they wanted me to do a spoiler vlog of one of the books that I'm reading for these different vlogs that I'm doing, and they all voted on this. So I will be having a fully spoiler-filled vlog on all of my thoughts about this. I'm gonna give you general thoughts, obviously, with non-spoilers, and then if you want more, you can head over to my Patreon and join the besties here. Why are you yawning? That's very rude. Anyway, this book is following our main character, Addie LaRue. Trying to say it the French way. Je m'appelle Sarah. That's all I have got for you. Addie grew up in the 1700s in a very small village in France. And her whole life, she was very independent. She was a little artsy girl. She was just like, I don't want to belong to anyone. I want to belong to myself, even though it's like the 1700s. She's just not really into women's role at this time. And she gets away with it for like the first like 20-ish years of her life. And then someone in her village, this guy, his wife dies and he's a widow and he needs a new wife because he has like 4 kids. And so her mom's like, okay, you can have Addie. And she's like, excuse me, I do not want to marry him. And everyone's like, yep, no, you have to marry him. It'll be really good for you. You'll have a great time. Like, her mom's like, you're prone to idleness. Like, you should get together with this guy. And Addie's like, I don't really want that. But there's this woman in the village named Estelle who's kind of like the local witch. She's kind of like a forest lady. She gives like vibes like she knows all about the gods and spirits and whatnot. And she's always told Addie, do not pray at night. If you pray at night, you will incur some wrath of some sort of demon god on you. It will not be a good time. But she gets really desperate. So on the day of her wedding, she runs into the woods and she doesn't notice the sun is going down. And she's like, oh my God, I do not want to marry this man. And so this demon guy shows up. His name is Luke. And he's like the shadowy man. And he's like, ooh, girly, like, what do you want? And she's like, I kind of like want to belong to myself and I don't want my life to be limited, blah, blah, blah. So he twists her wish, obviously. And he's like, okay, well then you're gonna live forever. But the catch is that no one is going to remember you. Like, literally, if someone is speaking to her, the minute that they turn away from her, they will forget that she was even there. And she can't even say her own name. Like, she can't even say her name's Addie or Adeline at all. And so she is now wandering around for like 300 years, just like, you know, minding her business, doing a little adventures, solo adventures, if you will. And the book opens on her in New York, and I believe 2014, and she's in bed with this guy that she's apparently been having a relationship with for months, but he doesn't know. Every day that he wakes up with her, he thinks he had a one-night stand. He's like, oh, sorry girl, like, I don't remember your name. And she's kind of his muse because he's a musician. The prose in this is succulent, delicious. It is amazing. Like, I'm having a great time. I am feasting. As far as what has really happened, we have spanned quite a few years at this point. Where I'm at in the book, she's actually met this guy who does remember her. Like when she has an interaction with him, his name is Henry. So she goes to the bookstore that he's working at and she steals a book and he catches her. And then the next day she comes back and he's like, hey, you literally stole a book yesterday. You cannot come back. And then she's like, wait, you remember me? And so they are now getting to know each other at the part that I'm in this book. I think I'm like 40%, 30% through, something like that. And I feel like Henry has his own secrets that he's hiding. I don't know what they are. I actually did speculate about it on the spoiler vlog, but that's kind of where I'm at in the book. And so I don't know, I'm interested to see where this is going. I know that a lot of people ship her with Luke the demon. At this point, I'm not really seeing it. Listen, I love a bad boy, but sometimes I love a good boy. And Henry kind of seems like a good boy, and sometimes that's what I'm in the mood for. And I feel like that might be the case with this. Besties, I totally forgot that I never filmed the conclusion to talking about Addie LaRue. I was literally closing out this video like I am filming this vlog clip last, actually, because I already filmed everything else. And then I was like, oh my god, I forgot to film my concluding thoughts about The Secret Life of Addie LaRue. Oh my god, I've been calling it The Secret Life of Addie LaRue so often. I do not know why I keep doing that. Also, my copy is all the way downstairs. I don't feel like going to get it, so I'll just put it on the screen. I think my subconscious keeps thinking of The Secret Life of an American Teenager with Shailene Woodley for some reason, even though I literally never watched that TV show when I was in high school. Anyway, I finished The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and I think my ultimate rating for this is going to be 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, but I gotta say, I didn't really ship Addie with anyone. Like, I kind of liked Henry at one point, and then I was like, maybe I could like Luke, but then, I don't know, he was just such a demonic entity. Like, I felt like he didn't really have like real human emotions, and I didn't love the ending, but overall, the writing was fantastic. I definitely need to read more of E. Schwab. The only other thing that I've ever read by her is A Darker Shade of Magic, and I didn't really love that, so I'm curious if I were to read like Vicious or something like that, maybe I would enjoy that. Also, I can definitely see why everyone always says that they want a sequel to this book, because I think that a sequel would be fitting, especially because we need to know what happens after the ending. Honestly, Henry was kind of giving loser. Like, he was a little bit of a loser to me. I didn't really love him, but then I didn't like Luke either. I just liked Addie. Honestly, Addie, Miss Adeline, she was my girl. I really enjoyed following her. I liked her perspective. I liked her as a character, and yeah, it was a good time. At no point when I was reading it did I ever feel like I was having a bad time. It just wasn't something that was like a 5-star iconic read for me. It was just kind of like, yeah, like this is good. Like, I see why the girlies like this.
Then I felt like the plot felt super rushed in the middle and end, so much so that like I feel like I blinked and the romance was over and the competition was over, and I feel like this book needed to be much longer, not only to explore some of these heavier topics, but also just for the sake of the plot itself.
I just did not like it. The main character, she was awful.
Besties, if you came to this vlog looking for a rant, I finally have a rant for you, because I hated this book so much. I feel like Reagan is too nice in her review. She was all like, oh, if this still sounds interesting to you, you should read it. No, I think that Megan Schaefer should be ashamed of herself, because of what was this book? It was so bad. It was so bad. It made me irate. Originally, I was like, okay, maybe this is a 3-star. Then I was like, okay, maybe a 2-star. And then by the end of it, especially that final chapter, I was like, 1 star, 0 stars if I could. So this book is following our main character, Lucy, and she is 24 years old, and she is a kindergarten age. She wants to be a teacher someday, but she's very in love with one of the students in her class. Not in love in like a romantic way, in love in like she just really cares about him because his parents died and he needs a home. He's like living in foster care, and so she wants to adopt him, but because she is a 24-year-old who works as a kindergarten age, she cannot afford to do that. So the first like 25% of the book is just kind of getting into how she really wants to adopt Christopher and how all she wants in this life is to be his mom, which, by the way, also, as I keep going, I am going to give spoilers because I am going to be launching into a rant review right now. So if you don't want to be spoiled on the Wishing Game, then thank you so much for watching the video up to this point. But from now on, it's spoiler city, and then we'll close out the video. It takes too long for us to even get introduced into the contest that's going on. So basically, in the background, we learned that Lucy's favorite book series when she was a child is this series called like the Clock Island books, and the author is like very enigmatic. He lives on this island that like the books are based off of, and she has a history with him because when she was a child, she did not get along with her parents or her sister because her older sister was chronically ill, and her parents took all of their energy and love and like put it towards her older sister, like taking her to the hospital and doctor's appointments and whatnot. And so Lucy always felt very unwanted, and eventually when she was like 8 years old, she got sent to go live with her grandparents. And so she has always grown up with a chip on her shoulder being like, my family never loved me, blah blah blah, which honestly they didn't love her. Like, you learn more in the book that they really didn't love her. This is why she's also connecting with Christopher, where she's like, I have to be his family, I have to be his family, blah blah. So we find out that she like loves the these books, and when she was 13, she ran away to the island so that she could connect with the author Jack, because she wrote him a letter and was like, I want to be your sidekick, and he wrote back and he was like, yeah, sure, but he didn't like mean it. He has not written a new Clock Island book in like many years because some sort of tragedy happened in his backstory, and so he has just been like drinking his life away and not writing books. But finally he announces that he's having this contest on his island and only a few people are being invited, and we find out that the people that he's inviting are the children that at one point had tried to run away to his island. So it's Lucy and then like 3 or 4 other people that are included in this contest, and whoever wins the contest is going to win the manuscript for his new book because he finally wrote a book. So we also find out that Jack, the author, has this illustrator named Hugo who is a little bit younger than him. He's like in his mid-30s. He is the one that has painted all the covers of the books, and so he's a very well-known artist. And what's creepy, I need to tell you up front, is that Lucy and Hugo eventually have a romance, but when we get the memory scene when Lucy went to the island when she was 13, Hugo actually met her when she was 13 because he's like 11 years older than her. And while a 24-year-old and a 35-year-old can totally be together, I don't think that age gap is bad at all. The way that it was written was so gross because it kept talking about how like he knew her when she was 13. Like they only met each other for one day, but he's all like, oh, like I didn't know you were gonna like grow up to be so pretty. I was like, it was gross. I did not like that. What I could not stand about this book is the amount of just tragic backstories. Like we have Lucy's baggage, then we find out that the little boy Christopher, the reason that he is an orphan is because his dad got injured at work once and then he got addicted to pills and he became a drug addict, and then his mom also became a drug addict and they OD'd on the pills or the drugs or whatever they were doing, and then Christopher actually found their body when he was like 4 years old. And then the reason that Lucy wants to be his mom is because when the like people, like the authorities showed up, they were like, where do you want to go now that your parents are dead? Which they would never ask a 4-year-old this. They would just look for his next of kin, and like it doesn't even make sense to me. But basically he was like, oh, I want to go with Miss Lucy because she was his teacher. So he goes and he stays with her for a week, and that's when she's like, oh my god, I have to be his mom. Like if I am not his mother, I will die. And you girlies know that I do not like motherhood. I don't like children, but like the little boy honestly was probably the best character in the book. Like he was fine. There was a lot about the story that I feel like was trying to be wholesome. Also, by the way, I don't know if you can hear Billy in the background. She is jingling and jangling because she's playing with a ball. But anyway, she's having a great time. I was not having a great time when I was reading this or when I'm talking about it right now because I'm just overwhelmed with emotion. It's like so hard to even talk about this in a succinct way because the amount of just tragic backstory for no reason makes no sense. Then we find out that Jack, the author, his tragic backstory is that he is gay and he's always been in the closet because he didn't want people to know he was gay because he felt like that would affect the sales of his books, because his books really help children. Like all these children would like write him letters and talk about how his books really helped them, and so he's like, I want to keep making a difference. But his biggest dream in life was to be a father. But because he was writing these books in the 90s and the early 2000s and he was a gay man, he was like, I can't adopt a child. One day, like in recent years, like the last like 6 years, there was a little girl that wrote him a letter. She said that her one wish was for her dad to like stop coming in her room at night. And so now we're introduced into a pedophilia, dad molesting his daughter plotline, which is so throwaway. Like obviously I don't think that situation is throwaway, but the way that it's written is so throwaway because it's like one paragraph. Like Hugo's just like telling Lucy this story about like why Jack has a tragic backstory. So Jack wrote to the little girl and said like, maybe I could adopt you, because he finally was like, you know what, I'm gonna try to adopt this kid because all these kids always write to me and want me to help them and I finally want to make a difference. And so he tried to get the police to like investigate it and they wouldn't, and blah blah. So the little girl kind of took it upon herself to try to get to the island, and so she went on the ferry, but then the ferry didn't stop at the island that day, so she jumped off the ferry and tried to swim to Jack's house, but then she drowned and washed up on the shore. And that's why Jack hasn't written a book in so many years, and that's why it's so crazy that he's writing this book and like giving away the manuscript to whoever wins the contest. And then don't even get me started about the contest itself. The contest is literally just a bunch of fucking riddles. Like they show up on this island, it's giving like, and then there were none, but like not a thriller and no one's dying, but like everyone shows up and they're like, why are we here? It felt like it was supposed to be like wholesome and then there were none or something. I don't even really understand. I don't know. I kept thinking to myself, I was like, I feel like this would be better as a horror slash thriller. It kind of was reminding me of the writing retreat, honestly. And I was like, you know what? I never thought there'd come a day where I was like kind of missing the writing retreat in comparison. But I don't know, there's just everything about this was bad. It felt like Meg Schaefer just like made an outline on a napkin and was like, I watched an episode of a soap opera. Let me write down every sad thing that happened and then we'll just put it together. Because I'm not even done describing the tragic backstories. So we have that backstory for Jack, and then Hugo's tragic backstory is that his younger brother Davy, who had Down syndrome, he was always Davy's biggest fan. Like they were like best friends, they loved each other, and Davy was the one that got him to become the illustrator because there was a contest and Hugo was an artist and he was a painter, and so his brother Davy was like, please, they're my favorite books, like will you paint for it? And then he entered and he won, and so that's how he got connected with Jack. Jack. And we find out that a couple of years ago, Davy actually died because of some sort of like health complications. It was very vague. I don't really know what happened to him exactly. Hugo actually ended up becoming like a drug addict, like turning to drugs and drink. And so Jack saved him, and he's like, Jack is like a dad to me. That's why I stay on the island and take care of him. And then he also had been dating this girl that he really wanted to marry. And so she came to the island with him to take care of Jack, because this was around the time that Jack had that little girl die where he found her on the beach. But that was another thing too, is that Jack literally found the little girl's dead body, but then his girlfriend ended up leaving him, and she ended up marrying some other guy because she was like, I can't stay on this island. And so also at the beginning of the book, the reason I knew that Hugo and Lucy were going to end up together is because it was like Hugo just needed to find a girl that would love Jack as much as him. Like all of it is just like so Lifetime original movie. Like I can't even begin to describe how everyone had a tragic backstory. Anyway, fast forward to the end of the contest. Jack is like, okay, everyone has to face their fears, because a huge thing in the Clock Island books is that the children in these children's books like have to face their fears. Like that's a whole plot point. And so he's like, you all have to face your fears. And so Lucy's fear is like reconnecting with her sister, because when her sister was like 16, she was like, our parents didn't even want you. They just had you because they knew that maybe I would need a bone marrow transplant, you know, very much giving like my sister's keeper vibes. Anyway, so her sister shows up, and Angie, so her sister's name is Angie. So Angie's there, and they reconnect, and Angie's like, you know what? You don't even want the love from our parents. They actually have Munchausen by proxy. Basically, they were like so obsessed with the concept of Angie being sick. She really was sick. Like she did have an autoimmune thing going on, but when she became a teenager, she started getting better, and her parents were like very quickly like not loving her anymore. So she would pretend to be sick because she was like, oh my God, I only get attention from our parents if I'm sick. And then she was like, yeah, there's something wrong with them, because then when I finally accepted that I wasn't sick, they put me into therapy because they're like, you're bipolar, you have an eating disorder, and they tried to force all these other things on her. And you would think it would end there. Honestly, you would think, okay, she's having this heartwarming conversation with her sister, like Angie and Lucy are gonna be friends now. And so fast forward to the end, we find out that Angie's about to die. Like literally in the last chapter, she goes to the hospital, and Hugo's like, oh, how much longer does she have to live? And she's like, she only has a few months. And I'm like, why are you randomly killing off her sister? Also, back to the contest. In the end, no one even wins this fucking contest. Apparently Jack planned it so no one would win it, because he was just gonna publish the book anyway. And instead he was going to help everyone who came to the island regardless of the game. He just thought the game would be a silly goofy time. And the reason he planned this contest is because he knew that Hugo was about to move off the island. And so he's like, well, now that you have Lucy, because you and Lucy obviously like each other, and she's now gonna move to the island, because basically Jack's like, I'm gonna help you adopt Christopher. And so they go to the island, and she like moves there. And so then Hugo and Lucy and Christopher and Jack all live on the island together as like a happy family, which is cute, I guess, in like a found family way. And that is basically the whole premise of the book. It's just like one tragic backstory after another. Also, the writing style is so bad. Like I didn't like the writing style from the get-go. One line that she kept using in the book, it was like a thing, is she just kept saying, sometimes you just gotta scream. It was like this little thing between Lucy and Christopher, but for some reason she just kept saying the line, sometimes you just gotta scream. Like I'm pretty sure it was the last line of the book. Also, I know I'm always playing you guys audiobook clips so you can hear bad accents, but the audiobook narrator for this book actually needs to be punished by a court of law for her crime of her British accent. It's so bad. It was grating on me the entire time, because Hugo is British and he's supposed to have a very like Cockney accent, and she genuinely should be put in prison for the way that she made him sound.
I'm serious. You can't go tonight. I wouldn't walk to Jack's house in this storm, much less go out on the water. You will drown, Lucy. What would that do to Christopher if he lost you too?
Anyway, I'm gonna be giving this book 1 star. So that kind of brings me to the end. But I have officially read BookTubers' worst books of 2023. If you've made it to the end of this video, feel free to use a teddy bear emoji in honor of the t-shirt that I'm wearing. My friend Megan gave me this for my birthday, because my birthday was over the weekend. It was on the 20th. Also, let me know if you've read any of these books, / maybe what were your worst books of 2023. And I appreciate everyone for watching and getting this far in the video. And a special thank you to Pair Eyewear for sponsoring this video. And I thank you all so much for watching. You're all beautiful. Have a nice day.
If you're interested, be sure to check out my Patreon for tons of exclusive content, including the spoiler blog for The Secret Life, no, not The Secret Life, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, I did it again, and the extended version of this video where I read What Moves the Dead and How to Sell a Haunted House.